ओके सो इस वीडियो में हम बात करने वाले हैं क्वेश्चन आंसर्स ऐसे 200 एंड बेसिक्स ऑफ ऑडिट के बारे में. ठीक है, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट द क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर्स. क्वेश्चन 1. Ziba Product is a partnership firm engaged in trading of designer dresses. The firm has appointed JJ and Company chartered accountants to audit their accounts for the year. The auditors were satisfied with control system of the firm, carried out required procedures and necessary verifications. In particular, they carried out sample checking for purchases, traced purchase bills to GST portal, and also made confirmation from the suppliers. They were satisfied with audit evidence obtained by them as a part of audit exercise. An audit report was submitted to the firm giving an opinion that financial statements reflect a true and fair view of the state of affairs of the firm. However, later on, it was discovered that purchase manager responsible for purchasing dresses from one location was also booking fake purchases of small values by colluding with unethical dealers. Payments to these dealers were also made in convenience with the accountant through banking channel. The partners of the firm blame auditor for for futile futile audit exercise. Futile मतलब गलत audit exercise. Are partners of the firm correct in the viewpoint and imagine any probable reason for such situation? It is answer. It is an example of the failure of internal controls of the firm. The internal control से एक सेकेंड, ये इंटरनल कंट्रोल की यहाँ पे पॉइंट छड़ा है. ऐसा नहीं कि वो जो सैम्पलिंग वाला इनहेरेंट लिमिटेशन सैम्पलिंग वाली नहीं लिखी है. इंटरनल कंट्रोल, फेलियर ऑफ इंटरनल कंट्रोल ऑफ द फर्म. The internal control has not operated due to collision between employees, which is a limitation of internal control itself. The auditor has relied upon the internal controls. It is very nature of the financial reporting that the management is responsible for devising suitable internal controls. This is an inherent limitation of audit. ये क्वेश्चन अच्छा है क्योंकि यहाँ पे इन लोगों ने ना वो सैम्पलिंग वाला सैम्पल मतलब 100% चेक नहीं होता, सिर्फ सैम्पल वाला वो वाला पॉइंट नहीं, इनहेरेंट लिमिटेशन में जो इंटरनल कंट्रोल्स वाला पॉइंट यहाँ पे टच किया है, तो ये इंपॉर्टेंट बन गया. Next question is RST Limited, a retail company, has set up internal controls requiring all invoices to be stamped and signed by an authorized person in goods receiving section of the company, stating the date and time of receiving goods in premises to ensure that only those purchase bills are produced for payments for which goods have been actually received. During the audit, the auditor finds that two employees, a purchasing manager and accounts clerk, have worked together to bypass this control, submitting fake invoices that resulted the payment for goods that were never received. You are required to state the objectives of an audit. State the objectives of an audit. एक मिनट. State the objectives of an audit as per SA200 when it comes to ensuring the reliability of the financial statements. Also explain why auditor can provide only reasonable rather than absolute assurance that financial statements are free from material misstatement due to fraud or error in the context in the given situation. Answer is, in conducting audit of the financial statement, objectives of auditor is accordance with the SA 200 overall objective of independent auditor, and the conduct of an audit in accordance with the standards of auditing are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statement as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, thereby enabling the auditor to express an opinion on whether the financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework, and to report the financial statement and communicate as required by the essays in accordance with the auditor's findings. The process of audit suffers certain limitations, due to which auditor cannot obtain an absolute assurance that financial statements are free from material misstatement due to fraud or error. These fundamental limitations arise due to the factors such as nature of the financial reporting, nature of audit procedures, not in the nature of investigation, timeliness of financial reporting, and decrease in relevance of information over time and future events. Preparation of financial statements involving making many judgments by management. These judgments may involve subjective decisions or a degree of uncertainty. Therefore, the auditor may not be able to obtain absolute assurance that financial statements are free from material misstatement due to fraud or error. One of the premises for conducting an audit is that management acknowledges its responsibility for the preparation of the financial statement in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework and are devising suitable internal controls. However, such controls may not operate to produce reliable financial information due to their own limitations. In the context of RST Limited, the management designed a control requiring all invoices to be stamped and signed by the authorized person in goods receiving section to confirm receipt of goods. However, collision between two employees, the purchasing manager and accounts clerk, allowed them to bypass this control by submitting fake invoices for payment. Collusion is a significant limitation. Collusion is the significant limitation of internal controls as it overrides the control designed to prevent such fraud. Given these factors, the auditor cannot provide absolute assurance that financial statements are entirely free from material misstatement due to fraud or error. Next question is, KST Limited is engaged in manufacturing businesses. It happens CAT to provide it an assurance report in its financial statement prepared on the basis of historical financial information. The characteristics of such engagement is that it involves gathering of sufficient appropriate evidence on the basis of which limited conclusion can be drawn up by practitioner लिखा है, auditor नहीं लिखा है. Identify the type of engagement, which are the two features of such engagement. ये बढ़िया क्वेश्चन है. ठीक है, तो पढ़ाई कर लो बेटा. Answer of this question is as given above. Engagement involves gathering of sufficient appropriate evidence on the basis of which limited conclusions can be drawn up. It is a limited assurance engagement like review. Other two features of such type of engagement are: it provides lower level of assurance than reasonable assurance engagement. It provides fewer procedures than reasonable assurance engagement. Next question is, the management of Exotic Tours and Travels Limited requests its auditor Raja and Company to provide an assurance report on the financial information for first quarter of a year by skipping required detailed procedures. Can Raja and Company provide such report? What would be the nature of such report? What would it be necessary for them to obtain sufficient appropriate evidence in this case? मतलब ये थोड़ा ना बढ़िया क्वेश्चन, क्योंकि यहाँ पे आइडेंटिफाई भी अपने को ही करना है कि क्या देंगे, कौन सा रिपोर्ट देंगे और दे सकते हैं कि नहीं, कौन सा रिपोर्ट देंगे, और यहाँ पे सफिशिएंट एंड अप्रोप्रिएट ऑडिट एविडेंस लेना पड़ेगा कि नहीं. तो ये सारा अपने पे थोप रहा है, इसलिए ये ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट बन जाएगा क्योंकि याद आना जरूरी है. Such report would be in nature of review. However, auditors would have obtained sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Sufficient and appropriate audit evidence तो मिलना ही चाहिए. Next question is, Rajul Limited engaged in external practitioner CA Rajul to provide assurance on its prospective financial information for the upcoming year, which includes projections of new product line. The company projected 15% increase in revenue, estimating total sales of 75 crore driven by expected launch of this product. Mention the applicable engagement and quality control standards and the level of assurance that will be provided in the given situations. Also explain the prospective financial information is different from historical financial information. Answer is, in the given situation, standards on assurance engagement will be applicable, and such type of assurance engagement provides only a moderate level of assurance, and only a which level of assurance? Moderate level of assurance. Difference between historical financial state information and prospective financial information. The historical financial information relates to information expressed in financial terms of an entity about economic events and conditions or circumstances occurring in the past periods. The prospective financial information relates to the financial information based on assumption about occurrence in the future events and possible actions by an entity. Therefore, historical financial information is rooted in the past events which have already occurred, whereas prospective financial information is related to future events. The assurance reports involving prospective financial information, the practitioner obtains sufficient and appropriate audit evidence to the effect of management's assumption on which prospective financial information is based are not unreasonable. Not unreasonable. The prospective financial information is properly prepared on the basis of assumptions, and it is properly presented, and all material assumptions are adequately disclosed. Prospective financial information relates to future events, while evidence may available to support the assumption on which prospective financial information is based. Such evidence is generally for future oriented. The auditor is therefore not in position to express an opinion as whether the results shown in the prospective financial information will be achieved. Therefore, such assurance engagement practitioner provides a report assuring that nothing has come to practitioners attention to suggest that this assumption do not provide the reasonable basis for the projection. Negative wordings use करेगा. Hence, such type of assurance engagement provides only a moderate level of assurance. Next question is CAP Babu. Wow, CAP Babu is conducting audit of financial statements of Quick Buy Private Limited. He was not able to obtain external confirmation from certain debtors due to practical difficulties and peculiar circumstances. However, such procedures is mandated under the standards on auditing. Unable to obtain external confirmation, debtors from this debtors, he relied upon the sales details of these parties, e-invoices, e-way bills, and also traced payments for these parties in bank account of the company. He was reasonably satisfied with audit evidence obtained. Is there any other reporting duty cast upon him relating to not following the mandated process in one of the standards on auditing? देखो, स्टैंडर्ड्स ने ना तुम्हें बताया कि भाई एक प्रोसीजर तुम्हें करनी चाहिए. अगर तुम नहीं कर पाते किसी प्रैक्टिकल लिमिटेशन की वजह से, तो तुम्हें डॉक्यूमेंट करना रहेगा कि मैं ये नहीं कर पाया इस कारण के कारण, लेकिन इसकी जगह मैंने ये चीज़ें कर दी है. ठीक है. Answer is, he is required to document how alternative procedures performed achieve the purpose of required procedures. Reason for departure has to be documented unless it is clear. His report should be draw attention to such departure. His report मतलब अपने जो रिपोर्ट ऑडिट रिपोर्ट बनाया ना, उसमें अटेंशन ड्रॉ करना पड़ेगा कि देखो यहाँ देखो. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, 2 क्वेश्चन बाकी रहे. Second last question is Kriti, a CS student, has joined articles in a reputed audit firm. She considers audit engagement to be an assurance engagement. Audit engagement is an assurance engagement. Her understanding is that audit engagement is only kind of assurance engagement in which practitioner gives written assurance report in appropriate form. However, her friend Soumya does not agree with her. She is of the view that the assurance engagement are not restricted to audit alone. Besides, Soumya also thinks that assurance engagement can also relate to matters other than the historical financial informations. whose view appears to be correct and state with the reasons. Audit engagement is an assurance engagement, that's right. However, assurance engagement are not restricted to auditing alone. There are other assurance engagements too, like review engagement, engagements providing assurance involving prospective financial information, and engagement providing assurance on internal controls in an entity. Assurance engagement provide assurance to users. The difference is of degree. Difference is of degree. An audit provides reasonable assurance, which is high level of assurance. A review provides lower level of assurance as compared to audit. There are also assurance engagement that relate to matters other than historical financial information, such as providing assurance to the matters involving prospective financial information, providing assurance on internal controls in an entity. In assurance reports involving prospective financial information, the practitioner obtains sufficient appropriate evidence to the effect of management's assumption on which prospective financial information is based and are not unreasonable. The prospective financial information is properly prepared on the basis of assumptions properly presented, and all material assumptions are adequately disclosed. In the given case, Kriti is of the view that the audit engagement is the only kind of assurance engagement in which practitioner gives the written assurance report and in an appropriate form. However, Soumya is of the view that assurance are not restricted to audit alone. Thus, the view of Soumya is correct. लास्ट में हमें जो क्वेश्चन में पूछा हो वही लिखना होता है. इतना सब कुछ डिस्क्राइब करने के बाद अगर मैं ना बोलूँ कि सौम्या तेरी बात सही है तो मतलब नहीं बनता है. लिखना पड़ेगा कि भैया सौम्या की बात सही है. Last question. The auditor of the company have only relied upon management representation letter regarding treatment of certain tax matters under appeal by the company. The auditor have not carried out any other audit procedures to justify management's treatment of the said tax matter under appeal in the financial statements. What is lacking on part of auditors in such a situation? In the given case, auditor have relied upon management representation letter regarding treatment of certain tax matters under appeal by the company. No other audit procedures to verify management treatment of such matters under appeal have been performed by the auditors. It shows lack of professional skepticism on the part of auditors. कि भैया तुमने मैनेजमेंट ने बोला तुम उस पर रिलाई क्यों कर रहे हो, भरोसा क्यों रख रहे हो, खुद भी तो कुछ ऑडिट एविडेंस भेगे करो, इकट्ठे करो. ठीक है, तो ये तुम नहीं कर रहे हो, ये तुम आलसी हो. और आलसी हो मतलब कि प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिज्म नहीं है तुमने. ठीक है, बस यही लिखना था, बात खत्म. SA200 एंड बेसिक्स कंसेप्ट खत्म. ठीक है, बाय बाय.